The forest feast I remember, the night my friend and I got lost in the dense mountain forest. The road had vanished behind us, and darkness pressed around the car. We had been driving for hours, cell phone dead, and the map was of no help. A thin mist curled around the trees, and fear gnawed at my stomach as I realized we were truly isolated. Then a pair of headlights cut through the darkness. An old pickup truck pulled alongside our car, and a friendly man and woman waved from the cab. We hesitated, but after miles of silence and cold hunger, we gladly accepted when they offered us warmth at their cabin a few miles off the road. Their smiles were kind, and their voices gentle as they reassured us. A wave of relief washed over me, but deep down, my mind buzzed with questions I didn't voice. Inside the wooden cabin, a fire crackled in the hearth, and the scent of cooking meat filled the air. They insisted we sit by the fire while they prepared a stew in a large black pot. I was hungry enough to eat a horse, and surprised at how eagerly I dug into the savory broth. The flavors were rich and unforgettable, strong and earthy, with a hint of something I couldn't place. The hosts laughed warmly, encouraging us to eat more, their smiles bright in the firelight. The longer we stayed, the stranger the evening became. At one point, I saw in the corner a stack of cleaned bones, almost like trophies. My heart pounded, but I told myself it was from a recent hunt. The man's hands were broad and strong, the woman's laugh too easy. Their eyes watched us with an intensity that set my nerves on edge. A tiny, uneasy thought whispered in the back of my mind. Something wasn't right. Hours passed. The fire waned, and the aroma of the meal clung to my clothes. My stomach was heavy, and I felt sleepy. When I excused myself, the woman smiled and pointed to a bedroom down the hall. The bed was small and the blankets thin, but exhaustion overtook me. I quickly fell asleep despite the uneasy feeling gnawing my gut. In the dark hours before dawn, sounds stirred me awake. The fire had died, and the cabin was darker than the woods outside. I heard heavy footsteps and murmured conversation in the next room. Fear woke me fully when I recognized a child's cry. Or was it a low, desperate moan? I pressed myself flat on the bed. Through a crack in the door, I saw shadows move. The woman reappeared, this time carrying a huge, dripping knife. She whispered something to the man beside her in a language I didn't understand. My blood turned to ice as the door slowly inched open. I stared into the dim living area. The man was there too, grinning as if expecting someone. He said softly, "Time to feed." I realized in horror that the stew was not the only dish for the night. Framed on the mantel behind them was a photograph of 3 new, smiling faces. My friend and me, cheeks flushed from the firelight. "Welcome home," the man said calmly, twisting the knife in his hand. I didn't wait for another word. My survival instincts flared, and I bolted from the bed, stumbling through the cabin toward the back door. The floor was slick beneath me, with something warm and sticky. The hosts shouted in surprise. I caught glimpses as I pushed outside, the woman crashing through the doorway after me, the man grabbing at my jacket. The night swallowed me as I ran, the thin light of dawn barely guiding my path. Behind me, I heard the woman's horrified scream. "He's free!" I kept running until the trees thinned and a distant highway appeared. I didn't look back. The dense woods lay silent and empty behind me, hiding their true horror. Even now, years later, I am haunted by the memory of their hospitality and by that unforgettable taste of the dinner they served. Basement of secrets, I've always believed I live on a quiet street. Neat lawns, friendly neighbors, little chaos, until the smell started. Every evening, a foul odor washed over the neighborhood like death itself. It grew stronger, day by day. The stench seemed to come from my next-door neighbor's house. Mr. Hemsworth was always polite and kept to himself. Tall and soft-spoken, he worked odd hours. I often saw him lug heavy crates to his basement at odd times, usually late at night. When I inquired once, he shrugged it off, murmuring about renovations. But that stench lingered in the air around his house. Other neighbors ignored it or blamed the wind. I wondered what was happening next door. One Saturday, as I took out the trash, I saw Mrs. Jensen from 3 houses down sprint inside, holding her nose. "Smells like something died," she muttered before slamming her door. Later, a breeze shifted and brought the stench strong to my face. It was sickly, sweet, and rotten at once, sticking to my skin. I followed it toward a pale gray shed in Hemsworth's yard. Distantly, I saw him heave something large up the basement steps, a heavy burlap bag spilling moisture. Night after night, I watched out my window. No lights ever came on upstairs, but from the basement, I caught a strange, flickering glow. Once, I heard a low moan through our adjoining wall. My heart raced, but moments later, a dull snore followed. I convinced myself I had imagined it. Yet I lay awake for hours, listening to my own empty house. Driven by dread, I did something wild. In the dead of night, I crept out and crept around to his basement door. Moonlight pooled on the wooden steps. The back door creaked open. Mr. Hemsworth stood hunched, back to me, placing another bag beside the last. My breath caught. No crate, but a heavy tarp concealing something thick. He set it down and turned around. I froze. My hands shaking, I hurled my foot at the old door. It splintered with my kick. Mr. Hemsworth's gasp froze in his throat. I flicked on my flashlight and bolted inside. The beam danced across concrete walls. On a blood-slicked table lay Mr. Hemsworth's wife, as terrifyingly still as a doll. I could see the dark red of dried blood, the angle of her neck twisted unnaturally. Against the far wall were shelves lined with jars of organs in formaldehyde. Those crates outside were full of body parts wrapped in plastic. The smell, coppery, sweet, rank, hit me full force. I gagged. Mr. Hemsworth cowered against the furnace, a chainsaw dripping red in his hands. He looked like a wild animal, eyes bulging and panicked. I yelled at him and lunged forward. He stumbled back and dropped the chainsaw, then bolted out of the basement into the shadows. My heart raced. I backed toward the door, adrenaline surging, and ran outside, calling the police as I fled. Moments later, blue lights spilled across the lawn. When I told the officers, their eyes went wide. By a sick twist of fate, Mrs. Hemsworth had never been reported missing. In their records, she was simply gone. They seized the basement, but legally Hemsworth would walk free. Haunted, I have no doubt. Even now, on quiet nights, I still catch a whiff of that stench lingering in the breeze. I moved away, but sometimes I still wake in a cold sweat, straining to listen for a faint cry in the dark, wondering how close I came to sharing their fate.